CEO Ronald Hickler from Creating a Difference. We're here at a ball demo. We're actually going to be able to give some insight on a lot of the new bowling balls that are coming out this summer. So we're going to start off and we're going to look at some of the motive balls. We got some of the motive balls here. You can see this is one of the brand new balls. This is a ripcord. This ball's got some shine to it, obviously. Looks like it's going to be kind of an interesting piece for us to be able to check out down the lane. They have another Venom. They have another Venom bowling ball here. This ball's also kind of shiny, you can tell that. Now check this out, this is that covert tank. A lot of people have been things kind of interesting about these balls, as you can tell, these balls are all freshly drilled. So the surface on these bowling balls is very, very new, and or at least fairly close to being new. Looks like that ball's been maybe thrown just a little bit, but looks like the surfaces are pretty fresh on these bowling balls. If you look at these over here, we've got a golden jackal, another polished piece from them. Looks pretty good as well. Looking forward to being able to kind of see how that rolls down the lane. And obviously it's got a little bit of shine to it. And this was new. This is a Rogue Assassin, which is kind of interesting because with the surface of this ball being looks probably right around that 3,000 or 4,000, maybe yeah, probably 3,000 grit. Anyway, looking at that ball says the same kind of thing, where the bowling balls definitely are fresh. And I think that's really key and important to keep into consideration when you are going to go to a ball demo, is that the surface of the bowling ball needs to be close to the factory surface so you can see the factory type of performance, as opposed to it being beat up or wore out a little bit. So we're going to go down now and look at some of the other companies' bowling balls and kind of see some of the finishes of their bowling balls, as well as the product in general. I mean, obviously the bowling balls are going to roll different as a function of the companies that make them and the manufacturer's intent, but the surface obviously plays a big role here. So let's take a look. So we've got Halo Pearls here. Halo Pearls, a nice shiny ball from the Rotogrip family. Looks like over here we've got the Fever Pitch, which is a urethane ball. Look, it's kind of interesting. You can see it. So look, that ball, right, obviously is really dull. And then as you move down over here to some of the smaller spans, the balls look shinier. And that's really a function of the ball just being used. So the ball probably is supposed to look more like this. If you can see that, it's got some surface to it, whereas these balls don't, which is just a function of the ball being bowled. This is kind of neat. If you look over here, you can see the Fever Pitch. They have a picture of the core here. It's a thick shell ball, right? Meaning that there's no outer core. It's just an inner core and then a cover stock. That's all you've got there, which is kind of unique in the market. There's not a whole lot of balls. Most bowling balls have an inner core. They have an outer core around it and then the cover stock. So that's actually kind of neat from them. Then obviously looks like we got a couple of other balls over here. We have Crux Prime. Crux Prime, as you can see, obviously these balls have definitely been used. This ball comes out pretty much at about 2,000 grit dull, 2,000 or 3,000 I want to say from the factory. But these balls obviously have been used quite a bit. This is a very strong ball. We have thrown that ball in the past as well. And then over here we can see we've got Supersonics. These balls obviously are older demo balls too. They've been used. So keeping in mind, the surface is going to change. But if you look, the surface of these bowling balls is going to look fairly similar to the surface of the bowling balls over here, the Crux Primes, because they've all been used. And once they're used, they're going to get to what we're going to tell you. The grit tends to average out at right about 4,700. 4,700 tends to be what we're going to call lane shine. That's the grit number that all balls end up at if you don't take care of them and to keep the surface fresh. Let's go up here. They got some new balls up here actually. So up here they've got this is the new Jason Belmonte ball. This is the ProMotion. You can see this ball obviously has not been thrown. It looks very new. This ProMotion here obviously has been thrown. This is a great example to be able to show you what we talked about, right? So you can see what happens with that surface change. So this bowling ball's got a surface on it to start, and this bowling ball is what it's going to turn into. This is going to be that 4,700 grit number we talked about earlier. Let me put these balls back. This ball here is the IQ Emerald. I actually personally do have one of these bowling balls. This bowling ball definitely comes out of the box from the factory shiny. You can see those balls kind of all look about the same, but like I said, you look at the ProMotions and there's a little bit of difference, especially between the balls that haven't been thrown compared to the balls that have been thrown. Then as we move over this way, the Storm Astrophysics. This is obviously one of their new bowling balls. This is one of their higher end bowling balls. They all are shiny, so obviously it's kind of neat. You can tell, like, as the balls are, if they're shiny to start with, they all kind of stay shiny, but if they're dull, they definitely have a really big change. So let's go over here and take a look at that, right? So this is a new Rotogrip ball, right? This is that Idol Pro, and you can tell these bowling balls here, same kind of concept, right? So like that one obviously isn't being used nearly as much as these other ones. You can kind of see that just by looking at the bowling balls. And then last but not least, we got the new Halo Vision. This ball looks like it's a dull ball as well to start with. So look, extra small ball. This is probably the grit that the ball is supposed to be at when it comes out from the factory. If we go grab one of the medium balls, you can see that the ball has shined itself up, as we talked about many times before. So it's really key to know that, right? It's important to know that, because when you're going to demo, obviously a ball like this one that's actually got some surface, that doesn't have a lot of surface on it, and it's shined up, is going to roll differently than this ball, which is the ball that they have made, and it's intended to be that particular performance. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on down. We'll move down the line and look at some more bowling balls that are out here. So we're over here at 900 Global. 900 Global's got some demo balls as well. These bowling balls appear to be used as well. So we got a Volt. This ball obviously is a shiny bowling ball. You can tell that it's shiny. All the balls look fairly similar. Conversely, this is a Flux, right? And you can see these balls, they've been bowled, right? They've been bowled. This ball, I think, comes dull. We'll actually be able to look at one. Matter of fact, let's go up. As you can see the shininess of these balls, right? These Fluxes. And now we'll go over and we'll look at a brand new one. This is a brand new one right here. So this one happens to be a brand new Flux, you can see. Nice, vibrant, pretty orange right there. You can kind of see how that ball looks, and that's really good for you to be able to get a good comparison, like we talked about, between how the balls come from the factory and then how they change with being bowled over time. A couple more balls from them. We've got an Ordnance Solid, I think, and an Ordnance Pearl. So this is the Ordnance Solid. This is going to be the dull one. You can kind of see, once again, they've kind of shined up to that 4,700 grit number we talked about. And then there's an Ordnance Pearl, which is already shiny to begin with, so it's going to kind of stay fairly shiny. Now, like I said, all the balls will go to about 4,700 grit when you measure them on a surface scanner. The shiny ones that are shiny to begin with typically start out at around 5,500 grit, so they're going to drop down to 4,700 grit, and the dull balls are going to be wherever they start with, and they're going to go up to 4,700. But nonetheless, the performance is going to change as those bowling balls experience lane play. Over here, we've got a couple more balls from them too. Looks like we've got a Badger Infused. This one's a unique piece. They say it's 70% reactive, 30% urethane. These bowling balls look fairly fresh, look fairly new. And then this ball here is obviously the White Hot Badger. These bowling balls have been thrown. You can tell that obviously as well, but nonetheless, they are shiny, and they are going to, like I said, they say about shiny. So that's kind of the way the process works inherently, because bowling balls are going to migrate, and it doesn't matter whether you're in this bowling center or whether you're in the National Bowling Stadium, or it doesn't matter where you're at, the surface of the ball is going to change dramatically as a function, not so much of the lane, but of all the components that go into it. The ball carpets in the back, the ball return system is going to really have a big impact on these bowling balls. Let's keep going. We got a couple more companies to take a look at, so we'll do that. We'll walk over here to the hammer section next and look at some of their bowling balls, and also do the same kind of process and look at the surfaces and just kind of look at what we've got going on over here. So we've got a few more hammer balls. This one's apparently a new one. It's called a Ruthless. You can see these balls look brand new. They look brand new. They've got no games on them. Maybe that one does a little bit, but these balls look fairly new, and the surface looks fairly fresh on those bowling balls. This is a new Web, a Web Pearl. So this ball is going to be shiny to begin with, obviously, and you can kind of tell that they kind of maintain that shininess. And then we've got over here, we've got, this is a Sauce. We've got the Hammer Sauce bowling ball. Obviously, they've been used a little bit, so you're going to be able to see that shine come back, that 4,700 that we talked about. This is another one. This is a Hammer Statement Hybrid, and that bowling ball is shiny. You can tell that it's got some shine to it as well. It also is a brand new ball, so it's going to retain and maintain that shininess. So we'll come over. Good. How are you guys? We'll come over here, take a look. They got a Resurgence bowling ball. So it looks like they got a brand new Hammer Resurgence, or I'm sorry, Columbia Resurgence. This is actually bringing back an older bowling ball from them, looks like. So same thing. It looks like it's a fairly brand new bowling ball. These bowling balls don't have a lot of surface on them. They look like they haven't been used a whole lot, and these balls are obviously dull. Then we've got a Black Chaos right here, Columbia Black Chaos. These balls, they were shiny to begin with, and they have kind of maintained that cover stock shininess that we talked about. And like I said, if it is super shiny to begin with, that's at about 5,500. It's going to go down to 4,700. And if it isn't super shiny and it's dull, it's going to go up to 4,700. So either way, it's going to end up at that 4,700 as the ball's being bowled. So we'll walk over here to the ebonite section now real quick. We have a GB3. This is a brand new piece from them, looks like. So it's these balls look fairly new. That one looks kind of shiny. This ball looks a little bit duller, but they look like they're fairly new bowling balls. So this is a brand new ball from them as well. and they haven't been bowled, and they look like they're fairly shiny. A couple of other balls. There's a Futura over here real quick. It's Futura that's been used a little bit, and then there's a new Choice Solid right there as well. Both those balls look fairly dull, as you can tell just by looking at them. So now we'll move over here. There's a Tactics Hybrid ball. This ball obviously shiny to come out from the factory. These balls look fairly new as well. I'm having them used a lot. Paradox Red, which is dull. Now check this out. Another good example. Obviously this 14-pound ball hasn't been used. You can tell ball's brand new. But look at this. Look at this one. This is a 15-pound ball, and you can tell this ball is definitely shinier. Here, look. I'll put them side by side real quick. So if you look at that ball, and then you look at this ball, you can tell there's definitely some difference in terms of the finish. And that's a function of being used, right? So the 14-pound ball is not being used. The 15-pound ball has been used, and that's what we're talking about. That's what you're going to be able to see. Those balls are going to roll differently, and that's why it's crucial that you make sure you maintain the performance of your bowling ball by keeping the cover stock similar to what it's supposed to be from the factory. And listen, we got a Lava Heat bowling ball here from Trek as well. That bowling ball obviously comes polished, and it kind of stays kind of polished throughout the entire set there. They've got, a 14-pound ball. Doesn't look much different than the 15-pound balls, and obviously typically the 14-pound ball isn't thrown nearly as often as the 15-pound ball. So now we'll move over to Brunswick. They have some new balls too. This ball's the Hero. You can tell there's a couple of them here. These balls, I don't know if they've been used a whole lot. Looks like they've got a little bit of shine to them. Not a whole lot of shine, but a little bit of shine to them. Obviously move over here to the Vapor Zone. Vapor Zone is definitely, this ball, it's got some surface to it, and this ball does too. So basically these balls probably haven't been used very much. So that's a good indication that, whoever throws these balls initially is going to be able to get a really good reaction and a really good opportunity to tell with those bowling balls how they're going to roll. This ball here is a Melee Jab SE special edition ball. It's polished. They look pretty brand new. So those balls are going to give you a nice consistent reaction. We have a Night Prowler as well. This ball is shiny from the factory, so you can tell that bowling ball is probably going to stay relatively shiny. We've got an Instigator right here. It happens to be one. This happens to be a super small, or it's not super small, but a small grip, which means it probably isn't getting used very much. So that's probably, no, it's not used there. It's not used very much. What's this ball here? I don't even know what this is. Oh, that's the Hero again. Okay, we already talked about that one. Over here we've got Zing. You can kind of see the Zing ball, shiny, a little bit of surface, So those balls are a little bit different, obviously. And then Squat Solid. This ball is dull. You can tell that cover looks very fresh on that particular product. Over here we got the Poison Pearl, which these balls obviously are shiny bowling balls, and you can tell that they obviously are shiny, and they look fairly consistent across the board. That means they're probably new. And the Instigator, these two Instigators all look the same too. They both look shiny, and they look fairly new. So that actually kind of gives you an entire wrap-up of surface across the board, across all of the different brands in bowling. And it's really important to note, and thing to keep in mind is that when you are purchasing a bowling ball, whatever surface it's at, you need to be mindful of that, because you may need to get that surface back on that bowling ball. And the best way to do that is obviously to go back to the manufacturer, look at the recommendations, and then make sure that you're being able to get your bowling ball back to that same fashion. And if you're at a demo day and you're going to evaluate bowling balls, you want to definitely make sure that you have a bowling ball that's got kind of a fresh cover, or at least semi-fresh, so you get a real understanding of how that bowling ball truly does roll. I did leave this ball out here. This is Jagged Edge Pearl. Actually, Jagged Edge Hybrid, I think is what it's called, but nonetheless, it's been used. You can tell it's got, it's shiny, but that ball is kind of still being able to maintain being shiny. So now you've been able to see it. Now you have a better understanding of all the way around how it looks, and you can tell it doesn't matter the manufacturer. All the balls are going to kind of get to that same 4,700 grit number being bowled, and if they haven't been taken care of, obviously they're going to get there quicker if they are taken care of. If you have more questions or need more information, make sure you check us out at ctdbowling.com. Ronald Hicklin, CEO from Creating a Difference. Have a great day.